Pikmin 2 builds off the original game to create a more challenging and engaging experience than its first time through. It takes place immediately after the first game. Olimar returns to planet Hocotate to meet up with the president of his company and fellow co-worker Louie. The president seems to be convinced that Louie came in contact with the space bunny that ate all of their golden Pikmin carrots, putting the company in major debt as the president had to take out a massive loan and sell off the SS Dolphin, your beloved ship, to help repay it. There is still a huge debt, but it turns out the bottle cap that Olimar brought back as a souvenir for his kid is worth 100 Pokos, the currency on planet Hocotate. Naturally, Olimar, with the help of his colleague Louie, are requested to go back to the Pikmin planet to collect more treasure to sell off for funds. That's pretty much it as far as the intro goes. Olimar and Louie immediately start heading back towards the Pikmin planet to start earning the remaining 10,000 Pokos. I'll say it right now, I'm not really crazy about the fact that within just a few minutes of starting Pikmin 2, the ship you worked so hard to fix in the first game is suddenly just pawned off. Furthermore, this makes me feel less connected with the president, as he simply demands you get back to the planet right away, even though Olimar just returned to his home planet after being away for a month, trying to survive uncertain death, and that isn't even addressed. Olimar just immediately has to get back to work, even though it's mainly Louie's fault that you're both in this mess, as you discover more and more throughout the game just how deceitful Louie can be, as he tends to make up stories and get himself into trouble. The game starts off very similar to the original, but allows you to switch between characters this time around, adding an extra layer of strategy as you'll now be able to split up your Pikmin squad into two different groups. It isn't super obvious how this is useful right off the bat, but it becomes increasingly more useful in certain scenarios as you play on. Olimar and Louie arrive at the Valley of Repose and end up hitting a tree on the way down. This is where you're first asked to switch characters to have Louie meet up with Olimar in the ship. This time around, we're actually finding real-life items from the real world, and the original games had all of these real branded items in the game, such as a Duracell battery, a Vlasic pickles lid, and a Yoo-Hoo bottle cap. Unfortunately, Nintendo's brand deals have all but ended from the original release in 2004, so all of the treasures are retextured to generic brands in the Switch port. This is really disappointing, as collecting the real-world items in the original Pikmin 2 always felt so special, especially with how the ship's pod labels them from the eyes of unknowing space aliens. A light bulb is referred to by the team as a stellar orb, a globe is called a spherical atlas, and an eraser is known as dream material. The Switch port is great because it obviously improves the resolution and frame rate of the game, and just like Pikmin 1, having that extra precision with the gyro controls is a nice touch, but not having the original treasure textures really is unfortunate and makes the original title special and unique to this day. We soon find the Emergence Cave, the first real cave setting you'll come across in this game. This is the main gameplay hook of Pikmin 2, exploring many different caves for buried treasure, and utilizing your Pikmin to carry them back to the ship pod, something that analyzes the treasure and tells you useful intel on the area. Your Pikmin bring treasure back to this, which then brings it back to your ship hall when you later resurface. Like Pikmin 1, you start out with red Pikmin again, but shortly after discover purple Pikmin when throwing them into these purple candy pop buds underground. These guys are super strong and can carry the weight of 10 Pikmin each. They are arguably the best and most powerful Pikmin in the entire series, allowing you to take out enemies super quickly, as throwing a purple Pikmin not only does a good chunk of damage, but also stuns enemies with their impact. With a familiar Pikmin type as well as a brand new type in your arsenal, you already start to feel stronger and ready to take on some stronger enemies. The Valley of Repose only lets you explore this one cave before moving on to the next area, as you'll need blue Pikmin anyway in order to clear out the water to let you and your Pikmin explore the rest of this area. You next travel to the Awakening Wood, and similar to the Forest of Hope from Pikmin 1, this place offers a safe starting area with plenty of easy enemies to take out to build up your Pikmin squad. The day and night cycles of the first game return here, except there's no overall day limit in place this time. As long as you can collect enough treasure to repay your debt, you'll win the game, allowing for as many days as you need to get there. The Awakening Wood is home to the new cloaking burrownits and margarets, these big flower enemies that disguise themselves as flowers and pop out when you walk past them. Another major cave in this area is the White Flower Garden. As the name suggests, this is where you find the White Pikmin, the other new Pikmin type introduced in this game. You can enter the cave with your full Pikmin squad, meaning all 100, but once a Pikmin dies in a cave, there will be no way to sprout more or retrieve more of your reserves. 100 is all you get, and I really like this, as it makes you think carefully about which Pikmin types you take into each cave, depending on the elements like fire or water found inside, which you can check before entering a cave. White Pikmin are quick and poisonous. They are immune to poison themselves, will poison enemies when eaten, and are the only Pikmin type in the game that can dig up treasure buried underground. You must delve deeper and deeper in each cave, as they all have many multiple floors, usually more than the last, and are randomly generated as far as the enemy and treasure placement on each floor goes. This helps keep the game interesting and challenging, not allowing you to just cheese the same strategy every time you explore a certain floor. You fight the burrowing Snagret from Pikmin 1 at the end of this cave, and in the Hole of Beasts you fight a new boss, the Empress Bulblax. This is now a pretty iconic boss that births all these little Bulborbs spawn and can roll over your entire Pikmin squad, killing them all instantly if you're not careful and learn the patterns. Defeating her grants you the Prototype Detector, an old love tester item that becomes very useful to Olimar. In this game, certain items give Olimar new abilities and quality of life improvements. This one acts as a treasure detector, giving you a sensor that will always let you know when you're near a treasure and will turn off after collecting every treasure on a floor. By collecting everything in these 2 caves, you should already have about 20% of your debt repaid, already showing results for your labor and making you feel really accomplished. There is another cave here called the Snagret Hole, where the first floor looks like the inside of a tree, the second looks like an outside garden, the fourth takes place on some rust-covered pipes, and you find some cool stuff like sushi, a strawberry, and a yogurt lid, ending in a boss fight against a huge burrowing Snagret that can emerge from the ground and hop around. Similar to the Valley of Repose, you're expected to backtrack to the Awakening Wood later when you get the yellow Pikmin, allowing you to knock down some electric gates and find the blue Pikmin and another cave here later. You next travel to the Perplexing Pool. This is the same area from Pikmin 1, The Distant Spring, with some slight alterations, mainly now with the new caves added to explore. There's the shower room, the Citadel of Spiders, and Glutton's Kitchen, all truly challenging caves. It can sometimes feel like the overworld areas are slight afterthoughts this time around, mainly just acting as places to house the many new caves, and since cave dwelling is what you'll be doing mainly in this game, the above ground areas can sometimes feel a bit more forgetful than the first game. The caves are really cool, but it's clear the developers were really banking on them taking up most of your time. There are of course still treasures to be found above ground, but the main bulk of your most valuable treasures will be found underground in these caves. You soon find the yellow Pikmin chilling in this tree and use them mainly for knocking down the electric gates and taking down electric enemies, as they are the only Pikmin type immune to electricity. They drop the ability for only yellow Pikmin to be able to hold bomb rocks this time around, allowing for any type to hold them. This can make the yellows feel a bit more useless this time around, at least at first. But you later discover how many electric enemies there are that require them, as well as a few out-of-reach treasures, requiring the additional height you'll get from throwing yellow Pikmin. Now that I had the yellow Pikmin, I quickly went back to the Awakening Wood to get the blue Pikmin and open up the pathway to the Bulblax Kingdom. This is a cave where you fight the iconic Bulborbs, as well as some fiery Dweevils, these spiders that steal your treasures, and a bunch of other memorable enemies from Pikmin 1, ending in a boss fight against the Emperor Bulborb again, the final boss from Pikmin 1. The fact that the final boss to only one overworld area in this game is the final boss for all of Pikmin 1 should tell you something about just how challenging and demanding Pikmin 2 is compared to its predecessor. He is, however, much easier in this game due to the fact that he no longer requires bomb rocks in order for you to damage him, and of course with the brand new purple and white Pikmin being super strong and doing more damage, and of course by intentionally or not poisoning the beast and doing a big chunk of damage that way. Since I always try to go for 100% completion in this game, I like to knock out the Awakening Wood first, and then backtrack to the Valley of Repose at this point since I have all Pikmin types and can now go to all the caves here and collect every treasure. I took on the Subterranean Complex, a tough cave with careening Dirigibugs that can drop bomb rocks on your Pikmin, and the Armored Cannon Larvas which shoot out rocks that instantly squash and kill all your Pikmin if not avoided. Things get really tough here as we take on Gatling Groinks, these enemies that shoot your Pikmin and need to be brought back to the pod quickly before they respawn. The game starts messing with you as certain ones can respawn and others won't. Spiders will sometimes emerge from eggs rather than nectar, which can scare your Pikmin, and boulders can randomly just fall down from the sky, killing a big chunk of your Pikmin squad. This game always keeps you on your toes. The boss here is the Man at Legs, a truly tough spider-like machine with a Gatling gun that can easily take out your Pikmin. Defeating him grants you a light bulb, which helps brighten the caves going forward. I now fully completed the Valley of Repose, and around this point you surprisingly should already have collected 10,000 Pokos worth of treasure, completely paying off the debt. The president calls you back to planet Hocotate, and Olimar heads over in a ship. While flying back into orbit, Olimar looks back at the planet and reminisces on his Pikmin pals before shockingly realizing Louie is nowhere to be seen. Louie is accidentally left behind as the credits roll, and we get to see Louie in various different real-world looking areas. I feel this early ending is Nintendo's response to the 30-day time limit of the first game. One of the criticisms of the first game was the day limit itself, making certain gamers feel stressed and unable to enjoy the game fully due to the fact. I feel Nintendo sort of overcompensated a bit by removing the day limit entirely this time around. Although I suppose you could still lose with a Pikmin extinction, losing every single one of your Pikmin, although unlikely. Instead, Nintendo made a somewhat easier Pikmin experience this time around for casual players, with a few new interesting elements like caves and the new Pikmin types, and only requiring you to just pay off enough for you to experience a good chunk of the game. This was a fine response to Pikmin 1, but Pikmin 2 truly shines when it comes to giving the core players something to do after the credits. After returning to his home planet, Olimar explains to the president how Louie was left behind, and the president immediately offers to go with you back to the planet to help search for him. This helps me feel a little bit better about the company president, as it shows he's not just a heartless, bumbling man of a boss that only cares about money. You two go back to where you left off, and now control Olimar and the president rather than Louie. I'm always glad that the game isn't actually over at this point, and there's still more to find, as I feel the game doesn't truly end when you repay the debt, as Louie is still missing, and there's still a good chunk of treasures out there. I traveled back to the perplexing pool, and started taking on some of the more challenging caves, such as the shower room, which requires yellow Pikmin to take out electric gates, white Pikmin to take out poison traps, and blue Pikmin to grab treasures underwater. The boss here is pretty cool, requiring you and your partner to split up and grab the bee's attention while the other quickly attacks his tail. You get a cool amplifier as a reward for defeating him, and the pod tells you this can be used to create the Mega Tweeter, increasing your whistle range. I really love some of these unique upgrades you get from treasures from defeating bosses. In the Citadel of Spiders, defeating the beady longlegs here gives you a key, unlocking challenge mode from the main menu. In Glutton's Kitchen, this cool indoor-looking cave with children's blocks, crayons, and other various household items, you get the Dream Material, an eraser that you can use to create electric nullifying armor. One of the most difficult caves from the perplexing pool is the Submerged Castle, which can only be entered with blue Pikmin, as the cave entrance itself is even submerged. Down here we find a cool new Pikmin Bulborb hybrid called the Bulbmins, and taking out the parent confuses all the little Bulbmin, allowing you to call them with your whistle and have them follow you instead now. Bulbmin are great as they can be thrown just like any other Pikmin type, and are decently strong. They can even breathe underwater. Unfortunately, you can't take these guys back up to the surface with you. We're next greeted by one of the most abnormally creepy things I've ever seen in a video game, the Water Wraith. This thing used to really give me nightmares and can easily mow down your entire Pikmin squad, rolling right over them and squashing them. This thing wanders around each floor and needs to be avoided at all costs, as there is no way to create more Pikmin down here if you lose any, requiring you to go back up to the surface and restart if things get bad. If you're going for 100% completion in this game, this boss can really get in the way and interrupt you from that goal if you're not careful. You face off against him finally on the final floor, and need to use the purple Pikmin's impact to stun and solidify him so he can take damage. The way he runs around after destroying his wheels is so off-putting and disturbing. Defeating him grants you the Professional Noisemaker, a megaphone that the pod makes into a pluckophone, something that can instantly pluck your Pikmin out of the ground by whistling over them. This is super helpful and saves a lot of time. We sometimes receive mail at the end of the day, and many of them are from the president during the first half of the game. Many of these are just silly little one-offs about how he's having anxiety about debt collectors calling him, and that he won't be able to pay off the loan agent, and he eventually goes into hiding under a bridge. Olimar's kids and wife write him too, saying how much they miss him and are proud of his hard work. Olimar is promoted to manager, and even though he is still away from his family even after all this time, they're still understanding and are rooting for his triumphant return. We also sometimes get letters from Louie's grandma, who likes to reminisce on when he was just a boy and their home together growing up. We really start to feel bad as she comments on the fact that Louie hasn't been writing, which only pushes us to want to try and find him quicker. I next traveled to the fourth and final area of the game where the caves and enemies are all cranked up to 11. This place is notorious for having some of the most difficult caves in the entire game, and is home to probably the hardest levels in any Pikmin game. Pikmin 2 really tests your patience and understanding of correct micromanagement if you're going to go for 100%. There's the Cavern of Chaos where you fight these weird stone golems called Mumadas, some more Margarets, and this thing called a segmented Crobster that rolls all over the place. There's the Hole of Heroes where you fight a bunch of prior bosses, and I always had a hard time keeping my Pikmin alive on sub-level 6, where you have to make sure none of your non-blue Pikmin drown and have to take on a bunch of tough enemies in order to safely bring back a jar of Skippy peanut butter. Shit, I'd do anything for peanut butter. Sub-level 9 is hard as hell, where you can find one of every large bulb orb all together in this small room. On sub-level 11, we fight the Empress Bulblax again, and on 13, the Mana Legs again. And the final boss here is a Raging Longlegs, a mega-sized version of the Beady Longlegs that is tough, but honestly not too bad if you can just avoid the feat properly. This is one of the many boss fights in the game where the extra movement of your entire Pikmin squad using R and the right stick on the Switch version is absolutely essential. Seriously, this cave is no joke, and not only do you have to do exceptionally well on each floor to continue onward, but you need to constantly keep careful track of your Pikmin count and whether or not you have enough to continue on to the next floor. I had to leave this cave halfway and come back later with a bigger squad, as I simply lost too many Pikmin. You will lose many Pikmin in Pikmin 2 if you're not careful and constantly keeping them close by and focusing the right targets at the right times. Defeating the final boss here is cool because he leaves behind the head of Rob the robot, this time called the Remembered Old Buddy by your ship's pod. We now have one final task at hand, to find Louie in the final cave, the Dream Den. This is of course meant to be the final, most difficult cave of them all, and requires every Pikmin type in order to see success. This final place feels like a great one last gauntlet, testing everything you've learned up to this point in the game. Sub-level 3 is tough due to the abundance of bulb orbs, careening Dirigibugs, and a respawning spotty Bulbear, all with these electric gates and poison gas clouds all around. You do get a GameCube joystick as the treasure for this floor, so that kinda makes up for it, right? On sub-level 4 we navigate some narrow frames while avoiding tons of armored Carnon larvas, which can easily throw your Pikmin off the edge while fighting them, and these anode beetles, which can conduct a current of electricity between them, instantly zapping any non-yellow Pikmin caught in the electricity. On sub-level 8, we're greeted to a bunch of different colored Dweebles, at least one for every element, requiring every Pikmin type you have. Level 10 is kinda like the floor mentioned earlier in the Hole of Heroes, requiring all your blue Pikmin to take out enemies that are mostly in the water, except there are way more enemies this time around, and extremely easy to lose a ton of Pikmin here if you aren't careful. They even put fiery blowhogs in the water here, so you would have to carefully take them all out with your blue Pikmin without letting them burn in order to safely bring back a treasure. On the final floor, we find Louie on top of a pile of various treasures. Upon approaching him, he is lifted up in the air and is revealed to be on top of the body of a Titan Dweevil. This is a mega-sized version of those spider enemies that steal your stuff, and it uses these treasures to try and take you out. It has a flamethrower, a faucet which sprays out water, a poison gas tank, and an electric battery that connects to these dropped mines. You'll need a decent amount of each Pikmin type in order to have them attack the various weapons he uses at the correct times. The flamethrower and faucet aren't too bad to shake loose from the Dweevil's control, because at least if Pikmin without the correct immunity get caught, you can always call them back to you. The poison can be a bit trickier, as it's hard to build up a good white Pikmin army, and electricity is brutal in this game, making the battery tough to knock loose without first making sure the rest of your Pikmin squad is safe. Defeating this beast feels like a worthwhile way to end the extreme gauntlet that is the final cave. Louie is the only thing left remaining, and appears to have fainted. The Pikmin bring him back to the ship pod, and he is stored in the cargo hold along with the rest of the treasures in the ship. Louie is now safe, and for me, there's always just one treasure left for me to collect. Yeah, above ground in the Wistful Wild, there's this dumbbell requiring 100 purple Pikmin to carry, with each of them having the strength of 10. I don't know about anyone else, but I am never anywhere near 100 purple Pikmin this late in the game, as I usually go through so many of them in the final few caves. So I had to do some more grinding in the subterranean complex a few times to farm more purple Pikmin, but it didn't take too long. Pikmin 2 offers a much more engaging and challenging experience than Pikmin 1 that takes the established formula to new heights with its expansive cave-dwelling gameplay loop. I do think the caves are a great addition to the world of Pikmin, but I do feel that they rely too heavily on them in this game, making each one longer and longer than last, with more and more floors and challenges that I feel can sometimes go on for a bit too long. Pikmin 2 will no doubt test your knowledge and skill of the mechanics and AI micromanagement to the fullest, and make you feel truly accomplished and rewarded for your efforts. But I will say Pikmin 2 also loses many of the wonderful aspects of discovering new, lush, beautiful, expansive areas above ground, as 3 out of the 4 areas provided this time around aren't nearly as memorable for me as the areas of Pikmin 1. The perplexing pool is just the distant spring from the first game. The Awakening Wood feels very similar to the Forest of Hope from the first game, and the Valley of Repose feels mostly like an empty wasteland with some enemies sprinkled throughout to block some of the treasures you'll find above ground. The Pikmin developers have stated in an interview that the above ground areas were intentionally made to feel similar to Pikmin 1, giving the player a sense of deja vu and the feeling that time has passed in the real world a bit, which is why they're a bit different this time around. I feel like this makes the game overall feel very similar to Pikmin 1 and takes a bit of the identity away from Pikmin 2. The Wistful Wild, however, is a pretty memorable area for me, with some cool spots to explore above ground requiring you to build a bridge, clear out some poison walls, and collect berries from these plants. There's also plenty of variety here above ground with the enemies and treasures. Overall, I really like Pikmin 2. The cave dwelling gameplay is a really good fit for this type of game, making the micromanagement part of it really streamlined and direct with each floor you take on to a cave. It feels like some of the caves include some truly fun yet tough challenges, but others can go on for a bit too long, trying to create a tough challenge that can sometimes feel unfair and overly difficult for no reason. Additionally, there are only really 3 or 4 cave themes that you'll see across many of the endless sublevels. There's of course the dark dirt covered caves, the rust covered pipeworks, the shower room tiles, the children blocks indoors and outdoors, and that's really about it. Between this game and the original, I would have to go with the original. I feel that Pikmin 2, in its attempts to be different and more expansive than Pikmin 1, went a little too far with the challenge and padded out the game with a few overly long caves, relying on this new gameplay loop to fully carry this title. But I feel in this attempt, the developers lost a bit of what made the first game so special. Pikmin 1 feels like a complete experience with a clear goal and end in sight, but Pikmin 2 feels a bit shallow when only obtaining the required amount of Pokos to repay the debt, and a bit too challenging and padded out when it comes to going for the 100% completion. 100%ing Pikmin 2 is still a worthwhile experience, especially if you really enjoyed Pikmin 1 and wanted more of a challenge from that game. But due to its length and difficulty, I'm much more likely to return to the first game when trying to replay or go for 100%. Pikmin 2 does almost everything right when it comes to expanding the world and established formula of its predecessor, and is a masterful sequel that adds new and fresh ideas, especially with the new 2 Pikmin types. I would recommend Pikmin 2 to any gamer who enjoyed the first game, but just keep in mind with what you're getting into with the 100% category. Unfortunately, we didn't get another entry into the Pikmin series for 9 years. Pikmin 1 and 2 are both masterfully made games during the GameCube era that were unfortunately left in the dust, while other Nintendo franchises had more time in the spotlight for many years. While there are certainly still other Nintendo franchises out there to this day with less love and attention made to them than Pikmin, it felt like Pikmin was going to become something of the past during that 9-year drought, and we really had no idea as fans whether or not the series would ever return. Luckily, that all changed in 2013 with the announcement of Pikmin 3 for the Wii U. Join me next time as we discuss the exciting new additions introduced in Pikmin 3, and look forward to my video on Pikmin 4 in the future. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification icons so you can stay up to date on all my future videos.